You're listening to PARTNERNOMICS podcast, where we discuss the art and science of developing successful strategic partnerships. To learn more about the suite of PARTNERNOMICS solutions, visit PARTNERNOMICS.com.
Well, we just wrapped up a conversation with Mike Yoder, the founder of Equip for Growth. And after about a half an hour of our conversation, I felt like we were just getting started. I still had a lot more questions, a lot more topics that I wanted to address with him. So I asked Mike to stick around, and we'll knock out a part two, and here it is. Mike, let's talk a little bit about goals and how we should approach goals, how we can use goals as a really powerful lever to get the results that we want out of our organizations.
So when I said that I had started by writing a leadership development program, right, for people, it was all focused on me leading myself well. It was basically saying, look, we all have, there's some DNA, right, to whether I'm a charismatic, I think I just made a word up, a charismatic, more outgoing leader type, or if I'm really quiet or reserved. I mean, there's different things. There's DNA towards intelligence, right? There is. But at the end of the day, every one of us on this universe have the ability to be a leader in some way, shape, or form. So my wife would say she's not a leader, but she really is. She has to do the things necessary to get the results that we need in managing the household and managing the kids, or she goes to her work and successfully managing what she does in her work. It doesn't matter. So we're all starting off as leading ourselves. Whether we become formal leaders where we're leading other people, that might have a little bit more to developing skill sets and growing our influence. So getting to all of that, it was based on being able to set goals. Every individual has this ability. And so I can sit down, whether I'm the CEO of a company with 1,000 employees, right? And it's a $500 million company. Well, or like I said, I'm janitor Jim. I sell out my services. I clean schools for a living, right? It doesn't matter who I am. I have the ability to set goals. So goals are crucial. Like, it's critical. And it's not about setting goals. It's about accomplishing them, right? So this is huge. I think like a little bit of what I think. So taking it over to the EOS world, we look to we look to leadership teams to think in 90-day sprints, and then teach their people to think in 90-day sprints. Because this takes that goal thing. So we call a goal a one-year goal or priority, right? So we ask you to set out 3 to 7 one-year goals. So less is more. It's always less is more, right? So if we focus on 3 or 4 things crucial that we get done as an organization in this next year, it's going to set us up to keep growing and go forward. Well, then I want to look at the next 90 days and I want to set goals. We call them rocks, but I want priorities set. I want 3 to 7 things we're going to get done in the next 90 days that are going to work towards accomplishing any one of those one-year goals. And just breaking it down like that into bites. Now, the next step is, and this is a personal thing, it's not really EOS, but I just teach this to folks. It's like, hey, take your priorities and then step back into that and go, what's in the way of me getting this done? And list out a few of my obstacles, and then translate that to what are the action steps to overcome those obstacles. Focus on the action steps on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And at the end of 90 days, bam, I will have accomplished my 3 rocks that I had, or priorities for that 90-day period. That 90-day sprint mentality is so freeing to businesses, because when we just think of the one-year goal, hey, we came out of the planning session, we're fired up, and 3 months later, 2 months later, 1 month later, we had COVID hits, or we had a new marketing shift, or a new product came through, or I lost a customer, I got 2 customers. I'm working and focusing on all these things, and it's like, okay, cool. All of a sudden, it's third quarter, coming in the middle of fourth quarter, I'm like, oh yeah, are we working on that goal? No, we got to look at it every 90 days, because we can't stay focused more than 90 days. Squirrel, right? We can't stay focused for more than 90 days. Squirrel. You kind of catch that. As leaders, we get distracted. And it's sometimes real distractions. And so, again, part of that EOS world, we come together every quarter and just kind of hit the pause button and go, look, Everybody just stop, take a breath. Let's look back at the last 90 days. What have we done? What did we goof up? How did we do? Grab anything we can learn from that and put it over here in front of us, and then forget the rest. Just forget it, move on. Now it's like, okay, what are our priorities going forward? And what key issues do we need to solve? And at the end of that day, people walk out super energized and refocused. Oh yeah, for another 90-day sprint. So goals, super important for anybody and everybody, but especially in business. Break them down into chunks, right? In the EOS world, we break them into 90-day sprints and have priorities each 90 days. You can change your attitudes. You can change the way you think. You can change your trajectory. You can change your story, right? You can change it in your own personal life as well as in your business life, in this world of running a company, or being a great employee or a great manager. You can change all of that by using this tool called goals, right?
I love that
It comes
approach and
together.
the importance of maintaining focus. And it's still, it shocks me how many times whenever we work with companies and we talk about goals, what are you guys looking to accomplish? And almost every time they pull out a sheet and it's annual goals. It's just as you'd
Yeah.
mentioned, they're annual
Yeah.
goals. And this is where we hope to be in 11 months. And oh, by the way, I need to read it from the sheet because I don't even know what it is, because
Exactly.
you just look at it 11 months later. That is totally defeating the purpose. And we wonder why we don't get the results we want. Is we need to, we could use it as a tool. If you're only looking at it every 6, 8+ months, it's not
Yeah.
really a tool that you're using. And we totally
Well,
subscribe
I
to
think
that.
too, at the planning session, when we look back at the goals and we go, did we hit them and get them done? It doesn't turn into a, did we get them done? It turns into, what are our excuses for not getting them done? Right? And we just start listing them. Well, first quarter we had this, second quarter we had this. And then at the end of that, we feel good. It's like, no, we need to feel pain. We need to mourn that, right? We need to feel really, really sad. And we got to go, we got to do different next time. Absolutely. It's really powerful.
Mike, let's talk about metrics or information, those scoreboards. Talk to us a little bit about the recommendations that you make, or as you're working with teams,
Right.
what's the importance of using data and having data-informed decisions and using those scoreboards, those kind of green, yellow, red, so that we understand how we're performing?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing here is a delineation between what we traditionally look at in the business world as far as results, scorecards, right, or scoreboards. Whether and I would say this, a monthly financial review or a quarterly financial review is great, and that's awesome. And what you're doing, so let's look at it monthly, right? So if I'm looking at my financial numbers monthly, it's giving me a snapshot of looking back, and it gives me a little bit of a chance to do a correction. So let's think about that. If I look at those monthly, I get 11 chances to make corrections. Now, what if I do two things differently? I still have that monthly review, so I see those results, but I come back and I say, I'm actually going to hold myself accountable to weekly. So I'm going to build a scoreboard that has some key measures on it. And I'm just thinking up at the leadership level, this all flows down to where I have a scorecard for marketing, for sales, for engineering, for manufacturing, for project management, whatever those other operational things are. And then I have a scorecard for finance, and I might have a scorecard for IT or administration. But at the top level, I'm going to have weekly measures, right? I'm going to look at it every week. How do we do last 7 days? Now, again, I'm still thinking of a result. So let's talk in terms of sales. So sales, how many dollars did we close last week? Well, we're a business that closes one deal a month. So last week I closed, so I got to think about how I look at that and get creative. So let's make this a little easier. We're a company that actually closes a few deals a week, right? So I can look at a weekly number. How many did I close? What I really want to know, though, is I want leading indicators. I want something that makes me look smart, right? So I have tracked and I've managed our sales process enough to understand that for me to have 2 deals closed every week, right? Let's even go further out. what do we want to do in a month? Well, in a month, we want to have 10 deals closed. Well, I'll do 8 to make this easier. 8 deals closed, right? So that means I need 2 deals closing every week if I use 4 weeks, right? So how many proposals do I have to put out? Well, our hit rate's about 50%. So for me to have 2 deals hit every week, I got to put out 4 proposals every week. Well, for me to get 4 proposals, I need to have 8 qualified opportunities uncovered. Okay. Now, to get 8 qualified opportunities uncovered, I need to be touching 100 of my warm leads to get 8 qualified proposals coming every week, or I need to touch 50 of them. So you see the process. We just work our way backwards. Now, I look at some of those weekly measures that lead me to this monthly desired outcome. I put those on the scorecard, right? And we're going to touch on this in a second. I think you're going to ask me about process, but just keep in mind, when I start looking at building processes, these are the steps that I want to measure the steps. Those steps in our process are on the scorecard, because if I do this, now it's not perfect, but on the DISC scale, the high C people out there that want things to be exactly right, just let go for a second, because this isn't always going to be perfect, but there really is a rhythm that if we have 50 phone calls every week, touches, we generate 8 warmly qualified opportunities. And for 8 qualified opportunities, I can create 4 proposals. And out of 4 proposals, I hit 2. Doesn't work every time, but that's our sales cycle for our company. So I look at those things. Every week, I'm looking at the number of warm opportunities. I'm looking at the number of touches done per week. I can break it down to my sales team, then to my sales people. So then I can put that scorecard up and they can see that. They can see each other's numbers. A little bit of competition. Gotta like that, right? I'm sitting in a leadership meeting and can go, hey, we've got 4 weeks in a row where our number of proposals were below our goal. I can predict, because of our sales cycle, that next month our revenue is going to be down. Almost with certainty. I look really smart. So take that same thing, put it in manufacturing processes, right? Our outcomes are safety, our on-time deliveries, they're right the first time. So those are the outcomes we want. What are the things we do in the process to make that happen? An example, safety or injuries, right? So an example might be we do morning stretches. So every day we do morning stretches, and that leads to a lower incident rate in a manufacturing setting. So just giving you some illustrations of how that works. So scorecards, huge, but it's gotta be weekly as best you can. Sometimes you just gotta look at monthly, it's the way it is. But I want stuff, if I get weekly, I get 51 chances for correction versus 11.
So using those leading indicators, which will predict an outcome.
Yes. Yep.
And then you mentioned the other side is having the lagging indicators, which are the results. And as
Right.
long as we're right on our activities that truly predict outcomes, we're golden. We just need to identify what those numbers, what those activities need to be, and shoot for those activities. We call it being proactive, right? Not reactive,
Right. Well,
proactive.
yeah. And so often, I mean, I'm not picking on anybody, because I get it. It's hard. We're running businesses. It's tough. But this is the response. Well, we can't figure that out. Yes, you can. You're smart enough. You just got to take the time to figure it out. And it is difficult. Like don't get me wrong. Again, but keep it simple. So if I get too complex and I'm like, hey, I've got great numbers on here. It takes us 2 hours every week to get them on there. It's a waste of time. You know, don't forget the old-fashioned tick marks. Hey, Judy, when you see this come through in our operations process, every time you see it happen, do a tick mark per day. And at the end of Friday, I get Judy's tick mark sheet and I put it in the sheet. It takes me a minute, 2 minutes to put it in there, and it's valuable information. So, but yeah, you can do it. You can figure it out. Drive it all the way down to, in EOS, we say everybody has a number. So kind of in that right structure where we haven't talked at all about this, but just we build this thing where it's called an accountability chart. It's kind of like an org chart on steroids. Everybody on that chart, it's tough to get there, but everybody on that chart has 1, 2, or 3 key numbers, and they're weekly if possible. And so you and I, we're leading teams in operations. We can go, hey, I can go, it's Wednesday, and be like, hey, Mark, where you at on your number, man? What's your number? My number's 8. Oh, well, where you at? I'm at 6. You're going to lose, man. I'm going to beat you. I already beat mine. It's Wednesday. I'm going to beat it by 2, whatever. I mean, there's that part. And the other side of it is too, when I'm failing repeatedly, it gives somebody insight into it going, hey, Mike, what's going on? This is 3 weeks in a row you've been below your number. It might be a personal issue. It might be, I don't know how to do this. Things shifted and I'm confused. So it gets us aware of issues quicker than 6 months later going, we got to fire Mike, his numbers stink. And I'm like, I didn't even know, So it gives great insight, opportunity to correct.
Yep. So Mike, as you had alluded to a few minutes ago about process, I know a lot of entrepreneurs in particular, the word process just makes them want to cringe.
Root canal.
Like a root canal.
Mm-hmm.
But, we all want our businesses to run profitably. We want them to run predictably. We want to know what's going on.
Right.
We don't like surprises. Isn't process and good process, isn't that the answer?
Yeah, it's too much work. Just skip it. Let me give some pointers into how to make this work better rather than just talk about process, because at the end of the day, you can't sit there. We all know it matters, right? We know that having processes followed and documented. So the big picture is this, right? If I've got the process, if I'm systemized and I'm documented, it's on this piece of paper right here, I can manage to that. If I can manage to that, it becomes more effective. Like it does better. It becomes more efficient. Okay. What do those lead to? Profit, right? That smiles. That's why we go to the dentist for the root canal. Going, not fun. Being there, horrible. 2 weeks later, when I can eat again and it doesn't hurt, amazing. So it is critical. What I can manage and what I do manage, it can grow and it can improve. And so process, I can manage against that. I can't manage what is in Mark's head. Tim, why aren't you doing that? Well, Mark told me this, and then you told me this, and you said you do. Yeah, well, on Fridays, that's how we do it. But on Thursdays, you have to stand on your left leg, hold your right arm out to the side, and then pick your nose. I mean, we got to have it simplified and documented. So here's my guideline to take the pain out. In EOS, we call it the entrepreneurial documenting of core processes, right? As opposed to 77 pages, right, of our core processes. I've got a handful of core processes, 6 to 12. I have a people process. How is it that we hire people, get them onboarded, train them, benefit them, discipline them, offboard them? That's my people process, right? I can show you a document with a people process on 1 page. Doesn't have the employee manual with the details of benefits, but how is it that we interview? How is it that we bring them on? Everything I just said, I can show you that on 1 page. Now that's a little more simplified than normal, but we call it documenting 20% of the process that gives us 80% of the return. And so I'll give you one other tidbit here. Every core process, so let me back up. A people process, I'm just going to give you examples of typical processes in any organization. So then we have some sort of a marketing process. How is it that we generate interest? Now, this isn't complex, but there's things we do to market ourselves. So what is the process? And if I define that, I then know what we're doing. Sales process. How do we move people from a warm lead to money, a closed deal? What is that process? Operational processes. I could have an engineering process. I could have project management. I could have procurement. I could have warehouse management process. I could put some of those together, or I could make them, say I have 4 or 5 operational processes. I then have some sort of a customer satisfaction process. If it's as simple as smiley faces and frowny faces, I don't care. Have customer feedback process. Simple. We do this, we do this, we do this. We're trying to get measurement. I have an accounting process. Money comes in, goes out. Okay. So there's this basic list of processes. Now, step back from that. As I go to document those, they need to be documented, simplified, and effective. Those are my 3 criteria. It's written down, it's simplified, and it's effective. Now, everyone starts with 5 to 9 steps. So if it's your engineering process, write out the top level 5 to 9 steps, and then just put bullet points in there. And if you end up with 15 pages, that's great. Now go back and make that 3. And just dumb it down. Add checklists on the back end. I mean, this is golden stuff. Like it sounds simple, but that's what it takes to do. In EOS, we work with folks and help them to get that done. But bottom line, I'm just a coach that's saying, get it done, get it done. It's incredibly strong. Now, I said this in the scorecard piece. In that sales process, part of that is we do 7 touches to warm leads, and then they either move on to a qualified prospect or we kick them out of the funnel or whatever. So there's a step in the process that I put on the scorecard, right? And as I'm watching that over time, it verifies that this is the right process because it's leading to good results. If we're measuring steps in the process on the scorecard and we're not getting results, either people are lying, which again, don't get over that. They'll get better, right? And if someone is lying, then you'll exit them off the bus, or the process isn't right. We need to adjust.
Mike, I'd like for you to talk about, so in our system, in the SPLM, the last element is results, getting results.
Yep.
There's a couple different pieces to that element on our side, but I'd like to discuss 2 different topics with you. One is meetings and meeting cadences, right? Well, for a lot of folks, and that's kind of a 4-letter word, and we're too busy to meet or to have those communication points. But it's been my experience, people just hate inefficient meetings, but they love good meetings that are productive. Right. And so that's kind of on us as the managers and the leaders to make sure that we have productive meetings. And then the second topic I'd like for you to hit on is just accountability. What is accountability, and then why is it so important? I'd love for you to just chat a little bit about meetings and the meeting cadence and why that's important. And if you meet it with a leader that says, yeah, I have one-on-ones with my people once a month, is that acceptable to you? And what does your conversation look like?
So this is a fun one for me because EOS has a thing. So we ask the question when I first meet with the leadership team, when they're interested, they're looking, right? They've perhaps read the book, right? Traction. Does that come through back? Yeah, Traction. They are interested, and I meet with their leadership team. That's the most valuable meeting that they can have because they either figure out if this is something they want to do or not, and it's free. And they learn some tools. So there's my little pitch right there. If anyone's at all interested in this, I'd be happy to give you 90 minutes of my time to do that. And yes, it's 90 minutes, but it's with you and your leadership team. This gets to the meeting cadence. One of the questions I ask you in there is, how effective are your meetings? Rate them 1 to 10. And the typical answer is an average of 4, meaning not so effective, right? So we have what's called a level 10 meeting. We basically say, look, we're going to give you, so the meeting cadence is huge. I already mentioned the quarterly meeting, right? And so one of those quarterly meetings is what we call an annual. So once a year, we're actually going to spend 2 days working on the business. We are rolling up our sleeves. We're doing team building. We're doing SWOT analysis, and then we're revamping the whole vision, which is a 2-page document. We're just kind of going through it and resetting it for the next year. So that's a big deal. And then we have the other 3 quarters, right? So there's that cadence of once a year, it's like hard stop. What are we doing going forward? We're checking everything. Our 10-year target, 3-year picture, 1-year goals, new rocks, solving issues, big deal. And then each quarter, we're like, hey, we're working on making sure we get stuff done so we accomplish this year's goals. Weekly, this weekly cadence with the leadership team, we call it a level 10 meeting because it's got to be 8 or better or you are screwing up. You got to be there. Now, here's how we help you do that. All this framework, we build tools and we put your answers into the tools, a scorecard, a rock sheet, which are our 90-day goals. We have an issues list where we teach people how to solve issues so they go away forever for the greater good of the company. We have a place in there where we capture 7-day action items. Like, what did we solve last week? We had action items to get done. Did they get done? It's called a to-do list. So we have these things built into it. So we give you the agenda for the level 10. It's the same day. It starts on time, ends on time, has the same agenda, and nobody misses it. There's 2 reasons for missing the level 10 meeting. It's vacation and my death. That's it. And I'm being facetious, but it's incredibly important. Nobody misses it. At the leadership team level, it's a 90-minute meeting. And the first time I say that to leaders, they all just like almost faint, right? What I typically find is within 3 to 4 weeks or 5 weeks, somewhere in there, they start to get a rhythm on this thing and they start to go, this is really helping. You get down the road 5 to 6 months and they're going, I couldn't survive without it. I wasted so much time doing, this knocks out all these spur meetings where it's Tuesday, our level 10 is on Monday, it's Tuesday, and I have something going on. I'm like, hey, Mark, you got a minute? I just took you off of what you're doing. We spend 30 minutes, we solve it, we go on, right? But I took you away from what you were doing, right? And then we got to tell everybody else about it. So we're going to waste another 30 minutes telling everybody else about it. It wasn't urgent. It wasn't. We got to get better at prioritizing. And I put that on the issues list. And so it gets into the meeting. Instead of interrupting you, I wait till next Monday. Next Monday, we walk into our level 10 and we get to the issue solving section. And I'm like, hey, Mark, here's what came up. And that's what I want to get through. You and I are with the whole team right there. We're all contributing. And you and I sit there and go, hey, here's how we should do it. And somebody else in finance goes, what about this? Oh, yeah, we never thought about that. So now we didn't waste 30 or 40 minutes in the middle of the week. We solved it right here in 15 minutes, and we had 5 heads working on it instead of 1 or 2. Huge. So it's called the L10. Starts on time, ends on time, same day, same time, same agenda. Those are the 5 rules of this thing, and it's very powerful. We then teach people to then push it down into the organization. It's not 90 minutes then, right? Because we got producers, right? People doing the work, and so we've got to make sure they're not doing that. But it's an amazing tool. When I get my team, my frontline workers solving issues, they're better at it than we are on half the issues, right? So I teach them that skill of solving issues, right? One other comment, just in that heads up, in the agenda of that meeting, it's just reviewing our rocks, our scorecard, our to-dos. And there's also a personal element of where everybody's just sharing a real quick update, right? When we start the meeting of, hey, personal, professional best. What's happened awesome in the last week in your life, personally and professionally? So we have that human element to kind of psychologically get disconnected, because it's maybe our meeting's at 10 o'clock on Monday. I already put out 7 fires, man. I'm like stressed. I want to walk in there and shift into working on the business. And so that helps us do that. And then we have just customer news, people news, any customer or employee, good news or bad news. That's 30 minutes of the 90. It's just reviewing those things. 60 minutes, when we're good at this, we spend 60 minutes solving issues. And we don't just talk about them and solve symptoms. We teach you to dig in and solve the root cause for the greater good of the company. This is where we learn as a leadership team to take our ego off and set it over here. This is where we learn to collaborate, right? The good fighting, to have passionate debate, to run to conflict and go, hey, it's not you that's stupid. It's the idea you just put out there that I think's stupid, okay? Now let's wrestle about it. Oh, crud, I'm totally wrong. It's a great idea, right? We got to run to that conflict. That's what issue solving is in our world. What we teach is we don't solve symptoms, right? A symptom, an example, hey, last week we shipped an order to this customer. It got there 2 days late, and they were livid. Okay, well, what do we do to fix it? Okay, well, we gave them a 4% discount, and we're going to go out and have Johnny do a quicker install. He's going to get there a week earlier to do this and get him fired. Great, we solved the issue. No, we didn't. That was a symptom. Why did we ship it 2 days late? Well, because this wasn't done. Why was that not done? Well, we didn't have the parts. Why didn't we have the parts? Well, because procurement didn't order. Why didn't procurement order? Because project management didn't give them the heads up and the schedule wasn't right. Why was it? We dig till we get down and we uncover 2 or 3 root causes to that issue, that symptom, right? Now let's solve those root causes, because the truth is there's only about 27 or 30 root issues that have ever happened anywhere. And they all go back to people, process, right? Structure, these things, the key components of the EOS model, right? And same with yours, they all go back to people and processes and structure. And so we just dig into those root causes and we saw communication, right? I kind of got a little fired up there. Sorry.
No, it's perfect, man.
That's
I love it.
issues.
I love it. I totally understand. We're the same way whenever we're working with our clients, but I really enjoy working with or speaking to folks, after they start to implement the EOS system for this conversation. And it's always interesting, just as you had mentioned, whenever they first learn about the level 10 meeting, they're like, oh my God, this is going to be brutal. And then to talk to them 4 to 6 weeks later, they're like, oh my God, this has been transformational for our business. It is I wish we would have implemented this 5 or 10 years ago. It's always interesting to hear.
It is.
Well, Mike, man, thank you so much for sharing all of these insights with us. You definitely dropped some nuggets out there for us to consider and hopefully for us to put into our businesses to help us out. But thank you so much for your time. Look forward to watching you continue to grow your business as you help to grow other businesses. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Love to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike.
Take care, Mark.
Partnernomics Podcast is brought to you by Partnernomics. Learn how to leverage the power of partnership. To listen to more episodes of Partnernomics Podcast, visit partnernomics.com.